Get paid to learn. So what I mean by that is I when I was starting Cove, I did other businesses before that. Like I did my parent with I didn't get paid to do I didn't get paid to do door to door potatoes or lettuces, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
You can get paid, that'd be great. But the concept is there's a lot of companies that are willing to pay you to learn things, right? And and as you get paid to learn it is what you really love and what you enjoy. The whole saying that do what you love and don't ever settle type of thing.
Mhm.
I do think that's a true statement, but I think there's a lot of failing and learning you have to do along the way to learn what that is for you. A lot.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Dallin Harmon. And Dallin is a quick introduction. So grew up at doing a combination of homeschool and private schooling, and worked since he was early as a teenager to help his family with finances. I think even selling potatoes door to door for a period of
I
time.
did. It's true.
But then the parents, or his parents, also got to or had a franchise that he helped with, and the brothers also had companies he helped with. Served a religious mission for his church in Brazil. Came home and helped helped his parents with the franchise. Then the franchise corporate approached him about a job, and he worked there in the trades for about 4 years, and then realized that it would take 10 years of going to school and getting all the licenses to go through the trades, and so stopped and went back to night school, I think, or went back to doing night classes while selling security systems. Got a accounting degree, finished school, worked for a business called Cove, and then grew that for a while. Left that a couple of years ago, and then moved over to what he's doing now. So, with that
Mhm.
much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Dallin.
Thanks for having me, Devin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely excited to have you on. So I just took a much longer journey and condensed into the 30 or 45-second version of it. So why don't we rewind and unpack it a little bit? So tell us a little bit about how you grew up being homeschooled and selling potatoes door to door.
Yeah. I yeah, I grew up homeschool, private school, pretty much out of necessity because we my dad has struggled holding a steady job, and so out of necessity, I did school and work since I could remember. To be honest, hoeing beets in the field, moving pipelines, selling potatoes, selling organic lettuce to stores for my parents. Yeah, if you hear my kid in the background, that's what it is, just so you know. I can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear it. The I'm at home and there's 5 kids, so there's a lot of movement. But yeah, I at a young age, I think I was cursed. I don't know if that's a curse or a blessing with the entrepreneurship bug, where I just developed this desire to want to create things and make things and build things. And so it started with survival for our family and ended up um, doing a lot of different types of jobs at a very young age.
Now, let me ask, just because I'm more curiosity than anything, but one of the ones that you'd mentioned was selling potatoes door to door. Now, is there a large demand for people selling potatoes door to door? Was that a good business happening? I'm just
Yeah,
curious how well that worked out.
that's a good question. No, actually, my the answer is yes, there is actually, but you have to have the right marketing pitch, if you will. So
So
my
now,
brother
what is
Jeff,
the marketing pitch to sell potatoes door to door?
yeah. So my brother Jeff, he actually did it first. So he did it first and made it into a pretty good business where he my uncle was a farmer and he had potatoes, and so we could go buy the potatoes from him really affordably, just pick them out of the cellar, right? And you get them per 50-pound box for pretty inexpensive. He sold to you just above cost, right? And then You load up 50 boxes of potatoes into a truck or a van, drive it to Utah. And why Utah? Well, because my grandpa was a BYU professor up in Utah for like 15, 20 years. Everyone knew him. And we would go sell in his neighborhood. Like, hi, my name is Dallin. I'm the grandson of Frank Harmon. And we are selling Idaho russet potatoes, fresh, picked out of the cellar. And we just drove up this morning. How many boxes do you want? And people would just be like, "Oh, Frank's grandson, yeah, sure. Honey, how many potato boxes do we want? We got Idaho boys here selling potatoes." So, and we could sell in 2 to 3 days 50 to 70 boxes.
Oh, there you go. That does sound like a pretty good pitch. I would buy potatoes from you, so that sounds like it
Yeah,
worked out pretty well. So,
yeah, that's where I first I learned to overcome at a very young age anxiety associated with talking to people. I had no idea who they were. Knock on the, I was only like, I think the young as like 12 or 13, 14 years old, knock on someone's door and talk to people. And yeah, that was it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I remember counting. I mean, it wasn't great money because you had the cost of going back and forth to Utah, but
mm.
it helped provide for our family. And I remember I was like, man, I wish I had a car. I wish I could drive so I could sell these myself. And my brother Jeff did do that. He did actually sell. He bought his own van and sold them and helped to get through school and stuff like that.
That's awesome. No, I love those stories, and I think it's always great if you can have the opportunity to do business endeavors and overcome the fear of talking with people at a young age. It certainly serves you you well throughout your life. So I think you also mentioned growing up, you worked and helped with some of your parents' franchises and also some of your brother's companies before going off to serve a religious mission. Is that right?
Yeah, so I my parents had a franchise opportunity with my brother, um, my brother's wife's. So his father-in-law, he was willing to loan them some money so that they could buy a franchise,
Hmm.
and then they moved to Oregon. Um, and it was a pretty good franchise. It was like deodorizers and selling paper products and deodorizer and paper products and soap products to like restaurants. And you walk into like a bathroom at a Walmart or an Abby's restaurant or Goodwill or whatever, and they would be a little freshener on the natural deodorizer on the wall. And that's where I really got a feel for sales because my parents needed help. So I started a little bit into that, helped a little bit with clients and inventory and management, that kind of stuff. Um, and my brothers had started a couple businesses, so I did all kinds of little business ventures. My brother started one company. I would go sell people on this one product that company did not make it, but I sold it to people. Um, I And then I had another cousin who started a company. I sold that. I traveled all the way up to Utah and I sold that at a campus. It was a software product for journal making. I didn't make it very far, but I did sell it. It was fun. It's a good learning experience. But yeah, I had a lot of. There seemed to be a trend with sales. I did a lot with sales, which is funny because I don't like sales very much. I actually think I'm more of a selling an idea and a vision than I am actually selling a product.
Well, maybe it set you up so that you're saying, "Hey, I can do more, or I can do the vision and the direction as opposed to or doing the hitting the pavement, so to speak." But so nonetheless, you did that growing up. Sounds like you got some great sales experience and helped out the family. Now you went and served a religious mission for your
Uh-huh.
church, the LDS Church, for a couple of years in Brazil. Is that right?
In Rio. Yep. Learned to speak Portuguese, read and write. The best 2 years of my single life. Um, and then I love the people there, awesome people. That's why I got to use my sales skills in a religious setting where I could explain correct principles and try to help them see the value in living them. And then I came home after 2 years and I was in Rio de Janeiro. And then I helped my parents' businesses again. Um, the franchise. They're like, we really need some help. And so I decided I was going to go out. I decided I had a number in my head. I want to get them above 10,000 additional revenue a month. That's what my goal was. So an extra like 120,000 a year. And with the profit margin of like, I think it was, gosh, it's been a long time, but it probably was like I think like a 28, 34 somewhere profit margin. So like an extra 3 to 4,000 a month, right?
Mm.
Um, that's not insignificant, right? For and so I hit the pavement again, and when I did it again, I sold business to business, where I would go to businesses and my pitch. I didn't know what I was doing because I got rejected pretty hardcore because I didn't know how to sell to businesses. I only knew how to sell to people. A business is a very different type of ball game. I
Mm.
had to learn how to find decision makers, and I had to learn how to get through gatekeepers. And um, my brother Theron, who was running a business at the time on the side, he was I come home and I'd be like, man, it was really rough. I only got this far. He's like, what if you did this? What if you did this? And
Mm.
my final pitch that actually worked really successfully is I'd walk up to I'd first have to find the decision maker. After you find them, I'd walk up to them. I had a little card in my hand. I knew their decision maker. That's important. I knew who they were. I called by name, walk right up to them, and I'd be like, hey, Devin, how are you? They're like, hi, my name's Dallin. And I would smell my card, smell it. And they'd be like, what? And then I hand to them, like, go ahead, take a sniff of that. Hand them the card, they would smell it. And they'd be like, And I'm like, what do you think of that? And they'd be like, that smells good because it does. It is a good smell. It's like a clean, like a vanilla smell. I don't remember.
Mm.
Anyway, and they're like, that's really good. I'm like, cool. What we do is I work for Airmaster. We'll throw a product into your bathroom for free, no damages, no anything, no risk-free trial. We'll leave it in there for a week. If you like your customers like it, then we'll talk price. And they'd be like, and then they asked me a ton of questions and da, 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 da. And then I had a pretty good close rate where people would be like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then they throw in a deodorizer and then they would like it after a week. Most people would buy it after that
Mm.
because I would pitch them on like all essential oils, biodegradable. And then after they buy it, then I would try to offer more value. Like, hey, we can offer toiletry products and soap products, and we can detail your bathroom, and then upsell type of stuff. And I did that for 9 months, and we built an additional 14,000 a month in revenue.
Awesome.
We did
Hey,
that over 9 months. So that was a good experience. But I would after 9 months, I was like, Mom, I gotta get out of here. She's like, I understand. You better go. So I left.
I smelled enough business cards as I've smelled as many as I can. So that
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm gonna. I think my senses of smell. It's true though. You smell. They have like 30 different types of scents. They're all essential oils type of stuff. And my senses of smell was totally out of whack because I smelled so many different types.
but it worked and you
It
figured
did.
out the salesman. So that's awesome. So and I think now as you left, if I remember right when we talked a little bit about before, you ended up working going to work for the corporate portion of the franchise or kind of transitioning to that role. Is that right?
Yeah. So close. So I had a job offer from corporate because they learned that we are one of the faster growing franchisees of in their across the US.
Mm.
Not the fastest, but one of. And they noticed those things like, wow, how are you going from this to this to this in revenue every month? Because you have to report your numbers every month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're like, yeah, my our son is doing this. Then I got a call from corporate, and they're like, hey, we want to offer you a job to like do regional sales type of thing and train other people how to do what you do. And then they offered me a decent job, way more than I was ever accustomed to seeing or hearing about thrown around.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't want to do sales. I'm like, I don't do this because I like it. I do it because my parents need it. I don't even want to do it. So then I didn't get that. I did take that offer, and then I had someone else, another franchise holder, offered me another job. And when I had two job offers, I was like, there's some real value here. I didn't know there was so much value in learning how to sell things. So that to me was a good like back pocket. Like if I ever need to get back into sales, I could do it. I'm not going to do
Mm.
this, but I could, type of thing. And so then yeah, that was my end of my franchising business to business sales.
So now as you concluded that chapter of life, so to speak, or moved on to the next, and you decided not necessarily going to go the corporate route or do that, have it in your back pocket. Where did you go to next, or what was kind of the next phase in the journey?
Yeah, it was like I one, I really like girls, so I wanted to get married. And sales is traveling typically, and you're like traveling to businesses and you're travel, it's just travel. It's not uncommon. And
Mm,
I mean, with technology was as good as it is now, where you can do the video calls and you can just sell over the phone a video call. It's not the same, right? Everything was in person. You go to them, like it's just different. And so I moved to Idaho and back to Idaho where I grew up and got a job as an apprentice, and I was going to be an electrician. I was going to be an HVAC technician. I was going to run my own business. Worked that for 4 years. Found my wife at the time. We dated. We got married in May, and I kept doing the trades. And I'm like, I'm going to be a tradesman, right?
mm,
I don't have to sell anything, and I just provide a service, and people really need it.
mm,
And I thought this was really cool. But then after I did it for a couple of years, I was like, hmm, I'm not very in control of my life right now in terms of business if I'm working for someone else. And then I was like, maybe I could run my own business. And then I was like, oh, okay, what do I have to do to that? And I was thinking through that, and I was like, oh, I'll get an electrical license and a HVAC license and a master general contractor license. I'll run my own business, and then I can be in control of my life, right? But that was going to take 10 years. And I was like, I was already 3 years in. And after 4 years and 3 years of school at night, so I was like, I don't want to go to school for 6 more years. It wasn't hard. It was just took time,
mm.
right? It was only a couple, 2, 3 nights a week for a couple hours. You just learn lots of laws and rules, and it wasn't too hard. It just didn't want to do it. And so I decided that I didn't want to do that, and went back to school, and then I got back into sales because I was like, well, I could do this. So I got back into sales, and thankfully Jeanette was on board, and that's how we got through school. We got through school, and I do school at nights and sell in the summer and recruit during the off season when it was cold. Um, and did that for 6 years, and um, got all the way through school that way. So from 24 I was like 24 25 until like I was 31 or 32. I was doing sales in school.
Well, sounds like it was a good combination, or at least got you through school and gave you a bit of a better direction. Now, if I remember again after we chatted, so you came out and I think you got an accounting degree. Is that what you got in school?
I did. I got a business degree with an accounting emphasis. It's technically an accounting degree, but it's an accounting degree is really just a business degree with a ton of accounting classes, is what it is.
Makes sense, and good for you. I don't know that I could make it through all the accounting classes. I would
I
probably.
barely made it myself. I barely made it myself. Like a couple of those classes, I was like, I am going to fail this class. And
All right.
thankfully, I had good teachers at a good university at UVU, and they helped one of the couple of those classes that I almost failed, particularly the tax class. Oof, corporate tax. That was a tough one.
So I usually don't interject my own stories, but it reminds me of one. So I'll have to give you. So I remember, and it's not accounting class; it was a math class, but it was a high level math class. And I went to BYU here in Utah, and I remember like it was a foreign teacher, and English was this third language is a hard class,
Oh dear.
and
Oh
we got
dear.
in and. Everybody in the class got the test back, and the highest scoring test was like 20%. So like and I
Oh
think
my
I got like
gosh.
14% on the whole test. I'm like, I've added up. I'm like, I got 1 percentage point for every page that I did of the test. And then the teacher came back and the next week he's like, well, I took a look at your scores and it looks like a lot of you guys struggled. So I'm going to give everybody an extra 10%. And I'm like, everybody still failed like 10% on, even if the highest one is 20%, we all still failed. So that was what I knew at that point. That wasn't the direction I was headed in life. So
No, it's funny because I in one of the classes. So at UVU, you have to have a certain grade level in your accounting classes in order to continue the program, otherwise they kick you out, right?
mhm.
Um, and because you get into the program and then they say, okay, you have to maintain this GPA overall, and you have to have this grade level on your accounting classes. Anyway, so because some of the classes I struggled with, but I didn't care because I wasn't paying the time, right? I was working and that type of stuff. But the one class I got like a, yeah, I think I got a 24. It's the lowest score I've ever gotten in an exam in my entire life. I walked out and I was like, I think I got that. And I totally didn't. And when I got my exam back, it was so inked up. And no, here's the worst part. You know you don't get it when it's not multiple choice. I had to write all my stuff out. I really didn't get it. Like he like only like partial. Like it was so inked up. And I went to a professor afterwards and I was like, I can't fail this class. I'm like, I'm a dad. We've got 3 kids. I cannot retake this class. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I work during the day, I take classes at night. Like, I can't do this. And he's like, well, Dallin, thankfully you came to me now instead of test 2 when you would have failed again, probably. And there, because there was like 3 or 4 tests. And he's like, if you come to me once a week, or twice a week for the entire semester, I'll teach you the principles and concepts. And he was very gracious, and they did a really good job. I like UU. UU is a great school. And so I passed the class
Well, that's awesome.
with a
Well,
high enough grade.
I also did pass my class that I only got
Oh, that's
40% on.
good.
It was
That's
like
good.
I think it was one of my worst grades at all of undergraduate, but I passed the class. It was like a C or C plus or something.
Yeah,
It was like one of my worst grades. But I'm like, hey, I'm just happy when I got a 14 on a test to pass the class. So that's awesome. So
totally.
so you did pass. You got your account, or
Yeah,
you got your business and accounting degree, and I think you came out and you started working for a business called Cove for a period of time.
yeah. So while I was doing sales, my brother and we did sales together for a lot of years. I kind of came to the realization that, so I did security sales, like I would sell door to door. I was the person that you don't want to show up on your door. It's like, crap, there's a guy at our door. Yeah. And they're like, and you know, they send the kids to the door and they're like, they're not home. And you come up with really clever ways to get there. Like, go ask them when they're going to be home. You know what I mean? Like, and you learn tons of body language techniques. And I also ran teams. Um, and so you train, and I was in charge of licensing and housing and payroll, and like I just run it's like running a small business within a company, right?
Mm.
Anyway, as I got super familiar with how the product works, the hardware, the software, the industry, the market, I was like, there's a way better way to do this. And why and Simply Safe was just starting to take off. Simply Safe, a DIY security company, and they
Mm.
were just starting to take off.
Mm.
And I was like, that's the way. E-commerce, online, ship it to them, install it themselves. You offer professional install people who don't feel comfortable with it through a third party, totally fine. And there's no reason we can't do that. Technology is going to get better. And so my brother and I were like, let's go start a company together. And our person that worked with us, that worked for a lot of years, I think he kind of knew we were going to do that. And so we left his company, and we were not an insignificant portion of his company. We were probably like 10 or 15% of his in total revenue every year we were
Mm.
generating. Like we generated, I don't even know, probably, tens of millions of dollars of contract revenue, right? The and we were like, there's got to be a better way. And we left, and then he came to us and he's like, I'm going to start another company.
Mm.
And I want you guys to run it. I'll fund it. He goes, you'll get the benefit of being a founder, the ground level. You'll get to run, you'll make I'll literally just give you the money. You guys make all the decisions. And I'll be totally hands off because I'm running this other company. And that's what we did. So we came with the name Cove. That was after we had 3 other names we really actually were totally bought in on.
Mm.
2 of them I remember was Brava. We loved the name Brava, and Haven.
Mm.
But then we had trademark and problems with other companies. We're like, we're going to be a national brand, potentially international brand. And that's where we had to like change those names, because Cove was one that we could get away with everywhere but Europe. We're like, yeah, Europe could be a decade away. We could wait for that.
Mm.
So we could change the name Europe. So that's where we came with the name Cove, because a one syllable is very hard to find. And we really liked it. It's a Cove is a safe haven for customers, because they're really good company, really good brand. They take care of their customers. They still take care of their customers. They do a good job, and they're still doing well.
Oh, that's awesome. No, and I like the name, and those dang trademark attorneys, they ruin everything. So
I know, like we were so bought on like these names, and I remember we were like, we bought domain names and like changed Slacks, emails, everything. We're like, we're going for this because we had did preliminary research. Then we sent it to those trademark people, and they'd be like, you might not want to do that.
I'll defend on the other side. Those aren't the fun conversations either. You don't want to give the client that detailed or that instructions unless you have to. So it's not fun on either side. But then you're like, that's the one I need. So you worked, I think, for Cove for 4 years, around 4 years.
Almost four
Is that right?
years. Almost 4 years. Yeah, we grew the company from there's two, three of us we started, and then by the time I left, there was over 60 people, multiple states and countries.
Awesome. No, that's great. So now you so you got in on the ground floor. You were doing a business. You're kind of you got to be a founder, and it sounds like it was being successful. Now, what kind of led you to exiting that or transitioning to what you're doing today?
Sure. Cove was a really good learning experience because that's where I learned my skill set and what I love. I love people, I love processes, and I love the synergy of the two. And I love making people's jobs easier and more enjoyable. I like scaling things.
Hmm.
I like I know points where a process will break. I can see it in my head and I know it. And I love when processes are strained. I'm like, yep, I knew that was going to strain. I knew it. Like I could see that right away. Like this has to be changed. This has to be automated. This has to be improved. Otherwise, it's going to be strained at these points. And I
Hmm.
learned that through Cove because we went with Cove. We went from a small little company to almost 2 million a month in revenue, um, with 60 plus employees, people, and name brand. Like we got into they got into Costco. Um, I don't know if they're in all Costco's, but they were testing it when I left. And last I heard, they were actually getting into all Costco's. We were Walmart online, Lowe's online, Target online. They're in the process of moving to Canada. Like we were scaling this business, right?
Hmm.
And I learned, I really just learned by trial by fire, like, hey, this is how you scale a business. And I'm like, oh, I really like doing this. This is really fun. Like this is a lot of fun to scale a business. And then someone approached me about that time and was like, hey, I've got a really good opportunity for you. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm a pretty good place. And he was a good salesman. he he's like, okay, well, let's talk. Just even if you're not interested, let's just chat. And I sat down with him, talked to him, and he kind of pitched me on the concept. He's like, I work for VidAngel, the filtering side. My brothers had started VidAngel, the original VidAngel product, right?
Hmm.
They had started it, and they had separated the companies, so they're all separated in terms of like there was a main company and then sub companies. And he's like, I'm gonna run
Hmm.
the filtering side. I'm like, yeah, that's interesting, intriguing, but I mean, what makes that much better than what I currently am at right now? Right, we've got good funding. So do you guys? We have a private equity. You guys have VC. VCs are more shrewd,
Hmm.
and at least my perception was they were right. And then about a month later, he approached me again, Jordan and I, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to buy this company from your brothers, um, and the IP, the subscriber base, and I'm going to convince the employees to come with me. And if you guys came over, he goes, I'm pretty sure it would send a strong message. We could get most of the employees
Hmm.
that work on the product." And he goes, and I'm going to make it to an employee-owned company. Then he had my attention because I was like, seriously? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna flip the corporate world on its head, and I'll give up a high majority of the shares to my people, like a
Hmm.
very high majority. Like typically in VC world, the owner will try to keep, you know, 80, 70% to themselves. They'd like to have 90, and then they give up, 5 or 10, 15, 20% to VCs and other founders, that kind of stuff, right? And the main
Hmm.
owner keeps most of it. That's totally normal and it's okay because they take all the risk. I get it.
Hmm.
And he flipped it the other way. He's like, I'm going to give most of these shares to my employees and I'm going to keep a little bit for myself. And I was like, I'm hooked. I want to come over. And so I transitioned away. And it's funny because I I had nothing to start with VidAngel at all, like nothing to do with the product. I loved it. I used it. I enjoyed it.
Mm.
My brothers started, I got to hear all their craziness of running the company. And I was grateful they were doing it. I just cheered them on. And then they're like, oh, they ended up selling it. And then I ended up going working for Bill, who's a CEO. Um, and they all stayed at Angel Studios that's making content. They're trying to become studio. They are a studio, not trying. They want to become like a name brand studio.
Mm.
And I'm on the filtering side, and it's funny because I had nothing to do with it, and I'm the one only Harmon there left. So it's kind of ironic when you think about it, because everyone's like, "How did that happen? How did you be the only one in there when you had nothing to do with it originally?" I'm like, I don't know. That's just the way it turned out, I
It's the
guess.
way that life turns out. You never know where it will take you. No, that's awesome. So so now, or maybe give us an idea. So, you've been over there with VidAngel for a couple of years now, and
Yep.
been working and building that up. Where do you kind of see the next 6 to 12 months going for you?
Sure. I could see myself being at VidAngel for 10 years. If I'm really honest, like I've never worked at a company like this ever. Like if we do what we're doing and we do it right, one, I think we could change how movies are consumed across the industry. I think it could take a while. It could take years and years and years to pull it off. But I think the technology is getting to a point that that the industry will see the value in it, and they'll see how good it is to be able to allow people to choose how they consume, what they consume in their home, and what is consumed within that content. I
Mm.
really think we're not too far away technology wise to make it so attractive that they'll be going to want to entertain it. And and as long as this company is running the way it is, like I can't see a scenario where I would leave because it's so, dude. I I think of it as I'm only a little piece in the puzzle and I get to help with it. But honestly, they could write books about it. Like it's this is like the Zappos
Mm.
or or the Nordstrom or the Disney way. You know what I mean? Like where they write books about the way the company was operated.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, I'm gonna be here. The only situation that would change if we got acquired or the business changed dramatically in some way that I
Yeah.
couldn't anticipate. Like I don't foresee me going anywhere. This is I mean I say that now, that could always change. I said I wasn't gonna leave Cove either. So I guess I guess
Well,
that
that's
could
awesome.
change.
No,
But
it's a great place to be with the business where you love what you're doing. They're going great. It's a great experience, and you can't see yourself anywhere else. And never know if things will change, but it's a great place to be while you're there. So, well, now as we've reached the present day of your journey, and even looking maybe a little bit into the future,
sure.
great time to transition to the two questions I always ask at the end of each episode. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what'd you learn from it?
This is a hard one. I thought about this quite a bit because you have it on your website. And I I I narrowed down to two things, and I'm gonna go with 50-50 on this one. So we'll see. But because I've made a lot of mistakes. Um, because that's the only way you learn. You make stupid choices. Um, don't work with jerks. I've done work long enough that I will never again in my career work with jerks. I won't. I
Hmm.
I will only work with people who I want to work with. Team players, people who are hungry, driven, motivated, teachable, moldable. They don't know the answers. Um, like after we spend so much time working, I spent a lot of time working. I mean, nothing in sales. I have the highest level of respect for people who are in sales because I did it for a long time. But there's a lot of jerks, right?
Hmm.
And sales. There's a lot of jerks. And I learned how to surround myself with people who weren't jerks in sales. And it made the job better, right? It made it enjoyable. I actually found really good people to work with. You go from a job from disliking it, not even liking it very much, to like actually kind of enjoying it, even though I didn't like sales because the people were so good to work with. And because we built the team and stuff. And so, yeah, that'd be my biggest mistake where I had to do that a couple times where I worked with jerks. And you learn, like, you know what? I don't want to work with jerks anymore. I will only work with people who align who I am, what my values are. And the same goes for other people. Some people might not want to work with me. That's okay. Like, I don't, I take no offense if I'm not a good fit for someone, you know what I mean? Or if they're not a good fit for us. Like, it's just, let's work with people that we build each other up. We make each other better people, better moms, better dads, better community members, better sons, better daughters, better employees, better bosses, better leaders. Like, those are the people I want to work with. I don't want to work with other people that are tearing people down, and I will never do it again. After these years and years of doing different businesses and stuff, like, I'm only going to work with people that I want to work with.
Hey, I'm right there with you, and I work in an industry, the legal industry, where there's plenty of people that'll say there's a lot of attorneys out there that are jerks, and I'm right there with you that if you can work and do or work with the people you like and that hold the same values and make it enjoyable, it makes all the difference. So
It
I couldn't agree
literally
more.
makes or breaks it. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like, if you, because you've done it, you've worked in. It's funny because lawyer, do you call it lawyering? I don't know what you call it when you're a lawyer. You're lawyering
Sure.
sales.
Lawyering. Yeah, you can say lawyering. Why not?
So yeah, sales is. I don't know where there's a stereotype of sales of, like, you're sales, particularly if you're in direct to consumer sales, right? Um, and for corporate sales is kind of like a more prestigious sell.
Hmm.
Um, the and being a lawyer is, there's kind of a stereotype of, like, oh, you're a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, what kind? Yep. And the answer is yes, that's true. There are a lot of people that are bad players or people who aren't good team members, but there are also a lot of good people. There's tons of good people in every space. You just got to find them and work with them.
Yep. I'm right
And
there
then
with you.
and it literally, I come home energized, right? When I work, and I come home being inspired and encouraged, uplifted, and be like, gosh, I work with the coolest people ever. You know what I mean? Like, and I will never do that again. Work with people, I'm like, I don't like you. It's not just I don't like you. It's just like, can you cooperate with people? Can you be teachable? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just I don't like you as a person. There's some people that I don't get along well with others, but I still respect them, right?
Yep.
And we still can work together. So yeah, you know what that's like. Definitely know what that's like.
Absolutely. Definitely understand that one. So, okay. Second question now that I always ask is, if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I would say get paid to learn. So what I mean by that is, I when I was starting Cove, I did other businesses before that. Like, I did my parent with I didn't get paid to do I didn't get paid to do door to door potatoes or lettuces, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
You can get paid, that'd be great. But the concept is there's a lot of companies that are willing to pay you to learn things, right? And and as you get paid to learn it is what you really love and what you enjoy. The whole saying that, like, do what you love and don't ever settle, type of thing.
Mhm.
I do think that's a true statement, but I think there's a lot of failing and learning you have to do along the way to learn what that is for you. A lot. And you have to make a lot of mistakes along the way of people you're working for, you're not the best fit, right?
Mhm.
But you had to learn that. And people are willing to pay you for it. And so if you can work at a company that wants to grow you as a person, oh gosh, don't leave that company, because that company will help you develop your skills, what's important to you, what you're passionate about. And there comes a point where it's like, hey, this is not a good development opportunity for me. Like, just go where people are willing to develop you. Be paid to learn.
No, I think that's a
And
great and that's not always necessarily even you sometimes it's certificate,
sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's free
sometimes it's
work.
free, sometimes it's a person you work under and you get a lot of
Yes.
experience. And I think
Yep.
sometimes they provide you opportunities to better yourself. And I think whatever that is, I think that taking the opportunities to learn and to be able to do that, it makes a huge difference and puts you that much farther along. And then when you get to the point where maybe you're not learning anymore and it's no, you've
So
outgrown the
yeah, my progression
opportunity.
stopped.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. I feel like so to take back my question, you said earlier, where do you see yourself in a couple of years or 6 months, 12 months? If my progression stopped at VidAngel, I would leave. Absolutely. But I can't foresee a scenario where it could because we're doing so much cool stuff and there's so much ripe opportunity in terms of the space because we're so small. We're big compared to what we were, and we're growing constantly, but we're not anything what the space is. We're just barely really scratching the first surface. And
Hey,
so as
sounds
long
like
as
an awesome place to be, and definitely a lot of opportunity there. So, well, now as we're wrapping up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to use VidAngel, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
yeah, if you want to be a customer of VidAngel, just go to vidangel.com, give us a try. If you message me on LinkedIn, I'll be happy to send you a trial code that you can give it a shot. We really believe in the product. We believe we have something special that is going to change how media is created and consumed, um, in a very real sense. And we're at the forefront of that, and we're excited about it. In terms of me, yeah, you just look me up on LinkedIn. I don't know if you have on the. I think I gave you like a my LinkedIn page. I don't remember if it's on the podcast. Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. I just because I use it regularly and everybody not necessarily like really quickly, but I try to respond to everybody because I wasn't always in the situation and I want to be real with people. So message me, I want to respond back, even if it's like, hey, I don't have time to review that right now. I can't look at that, but like I try to respond to everybody.
Awesome. No, I think that's a great way. Definitely encourage people to check out the business, the company, and connect up with you on LinkedIn. And if nothing else, make a new best friend. So, well, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you listeners who are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. Just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if you ever need help with your startup or small business, with patents, trademarks, or anything else, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. We're always here to help. Thank you again for coming on the podcast, and
Thanks, Devin.
wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.